Hi, it's Tessa with Hip Over 50. So I get asked a lot of times about the 6 month rule that you can come to the UK and visit for up to 6 months without a visa. So I thought I'd do this video to kind of answer some questions. I'm Tessa with Hip Over 50. You may have heard me say that I grew up in Canada and the US most of my life. I've just come back to live here and I am pretty excited about it. So I'm sharing everything that I'm learning with you and hopefully it will be helpful to you too. So, do you need a visa to come to the UK? The answer is yes and no. Almost everybody, any passport, can enter the UK for up to 6 months as a tourist or visitor without a visa. Now, I'm going to put the link below to the gov.uk site so you can check if your country is eligible, your country's passport. But I think the majority of countries, certainly in Europe and certainly North America, are all eligible to come into the UK for a visit of up to 6 months. So, if you have a criminal record, however, or if you've been denied entry to the UK for some reason, you may need to apply for something called a standard visitor visa to come in. So, what can you do up to 6 months on without a visa? Well, you can be a tourist. You can roam around the country. You can go to all the wonderful sites, see all the historical places, go to London, go to see where Harry Potter was filmed. You can do all of that stuff. You can visit friends and family. What can't you do? Well, you cannot work, not paid or unpaid, self-employed, remote. No, no, no. You cannot. You're not supposed to work here. You cannot claim UK benefits. And you cannot marry or enter into a civil partnership. You will need a marriage visitor visa to do that. So there you go. It's basically intended for folks that just want to come over as a visitor, just to play and just to see the sights and to visit with friends and family. And once you come into the UK, you'll probably you may fly into Heathrow Airport or Gatwick Airport, the two large airports outside of London, and Border Control there will ask you why you're coming into the country. Are you a tourist? They may also ask you if you're able to support yourself while you're here. Do you have accommodation or someplace to stay? Will you be able to pay for your return? And will you agree to leave at the end of your visit? Now, in my experience, even before I got my British passport, primarily they'd ask, why are you coming here? Where are you staying? Let's have an address and let's see your return ticket home, right? So all of that is a done deal. You just really need to show very minimal details to come in and you can stay for up to 6 months. If you do, be prepared for them to ask questions. If your return flight isn't for 5 months down the road, they may ask you a few more questions. So be prepared for that. So if you do want to be a little bit more than a tourist, if there are a few other things you'd like to be able to do during that 6 months, perhaps you are trying to maybe see if you could live here full time, then the next step up from no visa is something called a standard visitor visa. These are in 6 months. You can get one for 6 months, one for 2, 5, or 10 years. Yes. What can you do on a standard visitor visa that you can't do without a visa? Well, you can do all the things you could do without a visa, but you could also volunteer for up to 30 days. Let's say you've got a great organization in the US that you volunteer for, and they said, hey, we've got an opportunity in the UK. Could you be there? And you could, sure, as soon as I apply for my standard visitor visa. You can also attend business meetings or job interviews with that visitor visa. A recreational course for up to 30 days. Go to that cordon bleu school in London and sharpen your culinary skills, right? You can even do some studying or take exams. And if you're a doctor, a dentist, or perhaps an academic professor, you're even allowed to carry out research and attend clinical practice as long as it's not a permanent position. And you can also come over on a standard visitor visa for medical reasons. So there are some things though you still can't do on a standard visitor visa. You still can't work, you still can't do paid or unpaid work, you cannot claim UK benefits, you can't marry or enter into a civil partnership. And they expressly say you cannot live in the UK for long periods through successive visits. So I'll get into more of that later in the video. So if you decide, yes, I do want to apply for that standard visitor visa, then you can't apply any more than 3 months prior to your visit. You have to meet eligibility requirements, and you have to apply at a visa application center. A 6-month visitor visa will cost you about £110, and a 2-year visitor visa will cost you about £400. There is also a slight caveat to that. Even though you're paying for this visa, it still only allows you to stay in the UK for up to 6 months at a time. In other words, you will still have to leave at before that 6 months is up. Yes, you can come back just as you could as a regular visitor, but you can only be here for up to 6 months. The only exclusions from that are for medical personnel or academics who are allowed to stay here for 11 or 12 months at a time. So there you go. I think having the standard visitor visa is great if there are other things you want to do while you're here. Like I said, you still can't work or really get into a long-term study program, but I think it's a great way to sort of lay the groundwork. If you are considering trying to find out if you're eligible for full-time residency here, I think that would be a great place to start. It certainly shows that you have had intention, that you have met the eligibility requirements, and that you have a plan. Does it allow you to live here as a full-time resident? No. But I think it is a good foundation if that is something you would want to pursue down the road. Now, if you are retired, for example, you probably don't have too many pathways to residency. So I'm not going to give you false hope there unless you're going to use this visitor visa to, let's say, apply for a job or apply for a long-term study program. You're probably not going to be able to find a legal way to remain here unless you happen to fall in love with a British citizen and you want to get married, or maybe you have some family members in the UK. Those are other ways that could happen. But if you're retired, I think you're primarily going to have to be a visitor. But you can still use that visitor visa to allow you to get a little more stuck in, as they say here, to life here in the UK. Like I said, there is no parameter around how long you can stay here. You could stay here for 6 months, go home for 2 weeks to the US, come back for 6 months, go home to the US for 2 months, come back here for 4 months. There is no set amount of time that you can stay here. It's not like the EU where you can only stay, for 180 days out of 365. No, it's not like that at all. You could stay here for 2 months, go back to the US for 6 months, come back over here for 4 months. Whatever you want to do. However, if you do plan on coming back here successively over a long period of time, be prepared for the questions at Border Control, because they will be checking to make sure that you're not trying to live here illegally without getting the proper visa or without the proper right to remain. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions that I haven't answered, please put them in the description below. I will look forward to answering them if I can. And again, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate your support, and I will see you on the next video. Bye for now.